What's up, guys? This is going to be a collective creative unconscious reading. Just want to share a download. I noticed that my mind, I was really going through it yesterday, and starting to a little bit today. But I kind of had this realization or understanding that I wanted to share is that a lot of the times when our attention goes outside of ourselves, outside of what we know or what we've experienced, and it goes into the unknown, and we go into that mode of wanting to know, it starts to create this negative feedback loop, because what essentially you're doing, regardless of the topic that you're giving attention to or your awareness to, is that you're giving your attention to the unknown. You're the externalized version of the unknown, which the persona is naturally conditioned to be fearful against. So I think a good practice is to kind of reroute that attention and focus to the self, meaning, I'm too busy loving myself to be in external worry mode, external giving my attention outside of myself mode. Okay? So I think a good healthy little practice would be to, again, understand and know the power of your focus and your attention. And we could get caught in the trap of trying to figure something out outside of ourselves, external to ourselves. But really what you're doing, and the mind is so tricky at creating these false worries and problems to confirm our internal state, which might be anxiety, whatever number of reasons that aren't an actual threat, but your mind is on this survival worry mode. So it's going to try to confirm an internal kind of anxiousness, or not being comfortable with kind of being comfortable in a essence, in an essential way, in essence. So yeah, it's just a very subtle thing to notice, when your mind is going outside. Point being, it's kind of like that worry mode, even if it's a feeling, and again, it tends to get stuck, at least for me personally, but I'm sure that you might be familiar with this feeling as well. It's a feedback loop, because it's the thought. It's usually, for instance, I gave the example the other day on one of the reels or one of the TikToks, the 30-second shorts, that for one of the readings that I was doing, that I tend to, sometimes I could get out of hand with coffee or something like that, and that throws me into a state of anxiety. I know it's a little silly kind of predicament that I put myself into, but I notice that when my kind of biological levels fall into that anxiety, then it triggers the mind, and then the mind triggers that bad feeling all over again. But sometimes it starts with the mind. Sometimes things will be peaceful, and then the mind will come up with just something out of the blue, and then it'll trigger the negative feeling. So it could start from either way. It could start from the internal feeling triggering the mind for a confirmation bias externally, because your mind, remember, is trying to look for something to help you survive. And if there's nothing to be a physical threat, it's going to create something in your memory bank to worry about that you might have missed, or not have figured out, or whatever. Or someone's gonna backstab you or play not a trick on you, but someone's not who they say they are. Whatever the craziness that the mind comes up with. So again, it could come from the feeling first, or it could come from the mind itself. Point being is that it creates that feedback loop. And if you're trying to solve the problem that doesn't exist from that state of feedback loop, again, this is what we're saying, all you're doing is giving your attention to the unknown, and then that's causing more anxiety, because there's nothing to kind of answer this mode that you're in, this negative kind of feedback loop that you're in. And the reason that is because essentially you're giving energy to this bottomless pit, this unknown, is the best way that I could kind of try to express it in words. And so again, the persona, and again, not to beat a dead horse, but the personality doesn't enjoy that. And we got to remember that we're not our personality, we're not our conditioning, we're the awareness behind it. However, it's kind of I think it's worthy to explain how this kind of phenomena happens, at least from my experience. So if you feel that you can relate, feel free to relate. Um, so again, I think the kind of solvent for that mode is to kind of reroute your attention and your focus in this kind of unsolvable problem, because again, the problem itself is the feedback loop and where the attention is going. The attention is going outside of yourself, and it keeps on triggering the personality. Better to put the attention to the self, even if it's an elusive concept of self, an illusory concept of self. I've been getting into a lot of Muji on YouTube, and he teaches some of the fundamental Buddhist teachings, which is that our persona and our concept of self is illusory and doesn't even really exist. It's just in the play of Maya, and that's how a lot of suffering exists within us as human beings. Is we get caught up in this fickle mind that is always trying to either be your friend or your enemy. So better to kind of view the mind and the feelings, again, the feedback loop combo that it creates, as something passing and not stable. The thing that is stable is the space of awareness that you are, in which all these things, all these shapes appear and try to, again, pull the personality. All it could do is pull the person. So it's almost as if, again, you exist as potentiality or the space, and it collapses you into personhood by getting personal, meaning the feeling feels real and it feels like you have to tend to it. But again, it's because of our conditioned nature as biological beings. Point being is that everything that you feel isn't real. Everything that you feel isn't a threat. Everything that you feel isn't worth your peace and your, you giving love and attention to yourself, so to speak, in this example. So it's, I don't know, it's just thinking out loud, waxing philosophy. I think it's a very interesting concept. I'm kind of playing with it and utilizing it right now, where I'm at this moment and living in life. And I think it's very interesting because, I've been doing some kind of noticing and introspection. And I think a large part of it is, the persona, the personality of self doesn't like giving attention to what they don't know, because then it just kind of fuels that worry mode. So better to segue all of that and reroute the attention through the love to the self. I think it's very interesting. And it's almost as if so you're pulling yourself out of this negative feedback loop or worry state. And from there's actual clarity to actually probably even resolve the problem. It's almost as if the problem of the thinking gets resolved because you pull your state into a more positive state. It's very interesting how that works. And so something becomes more clear, which wasn't clear while you were worrying. And I think, funny enough, paradoxically enough, that sense of clarity is really truly just now you're in a state of not worry, but kind of self-love, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, and I think in modern terms you would say oh, I'm too busy loving myself or giving attention to myself to worry about something external. So very subtle, because again, it's very easy to get caught in one of those feedback loops, because again, we're so conditioned to be a person and to kind of collapse into personhood, to collapse into being pulled by our feelings, and the very feeling of this is important, I have to solve this, even that you must learn to let pass, because if you get hooked by it, then essentially you're feeding it, and all you're doing is feeding this kind of feedback loop, and you don't deserve to do that, basically. Let me see what cards want to come out. Spirit of gratitude, joy, love, and light. Highest possible messages. Again, it's very subtle, and it's almost as if you're just kind of jumping out of that worry mode and jumping into self-love mode, meaning giving attention and love to yourself. Let's see, Spirit of gratitude, joy, love, and light. Highest possible messages at this time. All signs. So yeah, I just wanted to share that download with you. On this lazy Sunday. I think it's the 25th Sunday. Let's see what wants to come out here. Queen of Cups in the upright. So this is an energy of someone coveting something. Cancerian energy traditionally. So feel free to apply it. Me, myself, yeah, today's Sunday, July 25th, 2021. But as always, you know, these videos have a timeless stamp. So whenever you resonate or come across this reading, feel free to apply it. You know, I was going to say my moon sign is Cancerian. So again, feel free, sun, moon, rising, or whatever planets that you may have in the sign of Cancer, feel free to apply it to yourself as well. This could be Cancer season, something happened in Cancer season, or with a Cancerian person. It's an energy of someone kind of, you know, coveting something in this kind of beloved way, not a negative way. You know, the Holy Grail, as it were, which, you know, could be interpreted as something practical and physical, or it could be interpreted as something ethereal. You know, to go back to the kind of Buddhist teachings of the underlying, like, absolute that connects all things, essentially, as if it's, you know, that knowledge of self, of who you truly are. To go back to what we were talking about earlier in the download message that I just shared, you know, are you the, you know, thinking and the feeling that emerges in the spatial awareness, or are you the, you know, being itself? Are you the awareness itself that all of that stuff takes place? The Queen of Cups in particular, is in regards to, excuse me, let me get a drink of water here. Cups in and of itself is emotions. Some people say that emotions are the, you know, key to spirituality, or the key to the heart. And that might be one way of understanding and self-mastery. Speaking of mastery, the only reason that the queen is the queen and not the king is not because of her gender, but because of the level of mastery and rank. So this is non-gender specific. So there is this, you know, if you're watching this, possibly you know, being on the path to self-mastery, and leveling up and realizing, oh my, like I used to take these feelings so personal. It's almost as if this is a personal attachment between this and that, hence that covetous kind of energy, fixed energy here in an interesting way. Something to note here, this Queen of Cups energy is represented by Gemini moving into Cancerian season. The Queen of Cups itself represents the passing from Gemini season to Cancerian season. Something about Gemini energy in the tarot, it's facilitated by the 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. Those are all very stuck, worrisome, dead-end energies. And the graduating to the Queen of Cups, to the Cancerian aspect of this Queen of Cups is more so of the 3 of Cups is party celebration, 4 of Cups is not being emotionally receptive, 5 of Cups is kind of bearing the brunt end of any negative emotion, but still salvaging the situation. Ultimately kind of seeing the innocence of the 6 of Cups. So it's almost as if the Queen represents, and maybe even the other queens and kings, I haven't really looked at it in that way, represent the trial as well as the resolution that the persona could be going through or trying to grow through. I think it's a very interesting interpretation here. Meaning the Three of Cups might be some fun, joyous, celebratory energy, or even escapism. The Four of Cups, for sure, is someone sitting, cross-armed, protecting their heart space. So there is a call to go back to the heart space. Meaning, in this present moment, as opposed to, like we said, giving attention to the mind, right? The unknown, theoretically kind of unable to be conceived here, if we are talking about this worrying example. To be able to get back to the heart, meaning the present, the source of emotions, good or bad. But inevitably that we, as human beings, we understand the heart to be that kind of source from which like true kind of freedom and knowledge and self-love comes from. So funny that we were speaking about too busy loving myself to be caught up in the mind. So inevitably you're kind of quite literally turning your attention from mind, theoretical, that which can't be comprehended, which is facilitating a feedback worry loop, to maybe even your heart space, where you're literally focused on your heart. But if you practice mantras, maybe you start to chant love or happiness or whatever. Maybe that's your way of bringing attention back to the self. Or just even, having your mind made up that I'm loving myself. I'm no longer going to worry my mind. Very interesting there. Very interesting there. And then ultimately the Six of Cups, which again, now we're moving to Scorpio season, but if we're going with the kind of thread that the swords are the trial, the cups, because again, Gemini swords, this represents Gemini to Cancerian, swords are the trial. And the reason swords are the trial is because there's such negative energy in the tarot. 8, 9, 10. 8 is about being trapped. 8 of swords, Gemini energy. 9 is about worrisome. 10 is about dead ends. Whereas the cups are a little bit flirty with happy energy, still kind of touchy, protective of the self. The image of self, our constraints, our barriers, our walls, the conditioned self. The illusory conditioned self, right? The Five of Cups, actually processing that, which is a prerequisite if you're going to want to kind of try to master from, go from queen to king. And then ultimately the Six of Cups is, it's a form of trust and innocence and essentially getting back to love, which I think is fascinating because, a lot of that heartache and sorrow, the Five of Cups, and excuse me, I just realized the Five of Cups itself is Scorpio energy. I previously mentioned that it was Cancerian energy, but it's Scorpio energy. Technically, the Four of Cups is Cancerian, Three of Cups, that fun celebratory energy, is Cancerian, but I should make a note that the Two of Cups is Cancerian energy. So Two of Cups has to do with relationally, emotional relationships, things of that nature. So, if something has you triggered due to emotional reasons, likewise, no longer kind of feeding that attention of the negative unknown, bringing something to a more self-love, innocence, kind of harmonious vibe. I think in the bigger picture is what's being called for here. Let's see what else wants to come out. Trust, love, giving love to the self, all that stuff. Not taking feelings as personal, if that makes sense. The Queen's journey to the King, essentially. Let's see. Yeah, Five of Swords is cutthroat energy, fearful thinking, winning at all costs. Drinking some more water here, 1 second. Not playing fair. I always advise not to play with that energy. Let's see. Spirit, any more. Yeah, look up Muji on YouTube. I can't stress it enough, man. This guy's a very cool modern version of kind of teaching those like Vedic, Buddhist, Indian, from India, teachings of like no self. And I think that sounds like how it sounds, but really truly it's the unattached self, essentially, not attached to the feelings and the thinking. Because yes, thinking, should serve you. It should be used for practical purposes. It shouldn't be used in this modern way where you have all this time on your hands and or no physical life threats, as opposed to like kind of old ancient days. It shouldn't be used. The mind shouldn't be using you, basically, is what we're saying here. So these teachings are very cool to the extent that it's telling us again that our natural state is to be high vibrational, not overly concerned, or attached to any nonsense that may arise from thinking and feeling. So let's see what wants to come up here. Tower card is an uprooting, sudden change, divine intervention. So you got to trust that. Go with that. Okay, it's grace. It really is grace. And then this is a setup for a new leap of faith in a new direction here with the Fool card. Golden backgrounds are God's gift, God's blessings. Likewise, these Yiddish yads here are blessings as well in ancient Hebrew. But ultimately, that golden background is a gift from the universe. A new start here. Okay, starting at point 0 for in the tarot. It's almost as if you're segueing, having to go all the way to the World card, which is the end of the tarot, because you've been here before. You know you're learning these lessons and you know what's up. So you could just jump to the end and kind of segue into a higher vibrational cycle. Because if you're still butting your head up against thought and feeling and lack and insecurity, these are all energies of personhood. You've collapsed the wave into the particle of personhood, meaning you're taking life too serious by thinking that it's even worth dwelling in fear and worry. That's a modern phenomena that comes from conditioning. So very, very cool and very interesting that we're here to kind of expose together that nonsense. That's what kind of satsang is. That's what Muji does. In that kind of ancient Indian tradition, again India, but is we're sitting together in truth and exposing, the suffering of personhood. You're not a person, okay? You're being, you're pure awareness. Everything else is just nonsense, essentially. And again, that's not to say don't have a vision, don't have a dream, don't enjoy happiness and love and enjoyment, but don't suffer the negative. Don't kind of play into that kind of feedback loop, okay? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna leave it there. I feel really good about that. I know I'm long-winded, but it is what it is. I love you guys, and I know you guys love me. Leave a comment below, like, share, follow, subscribe. Check me out on all social media. What else? If you want a one-on-one reading, it's $2 a minute. They could take place over the phone, over video, over social media, chat, messenger, IM, text, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm here for you guys, and we could kind of expose, these kind of BS conditioned, worrisome patterns of thought. We could expose them together. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to serve you guys humbly, with love, and so I thank you for that. And reach out. Love you guys. Have a good one. Peace.